Shulpaneswar. I have come from Madhya Pradesh to Gujarat, as if from the lap of one mother to the lap of another. My father came from a village in Gujarat and settled in Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh. As a child, we lived in both Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh. Later, less so, till at last Madhya Pradesh became our home. I speak both Hindi and Gujarati, but my sons know more Hindi and less Gujarati. After 3 or 4 generations, our family will be only Hindi speaking. Trivedi ji, the priest at Shulpaneswar, was from Madhya Pradesh. His sons speak both Hindi and Gujarati, but his grandsons speak only Gujarati. After 3 or 4 generations, the priest's family will be entirely Gujarati speaking. This kind of internal migration has been going on for centuries and strengthens the unity of our country. Future generations will migrate to different states in this way. Yet in their hearts they will still feel some affection for their roots. I was once a child in Gujarat. I went to the schools of Gujarat. I rolled in the dust of Gujarat. So it is only natural that I should feel moved by the sight of the soil of Gujarat. I had already been to Shulpaneswar's mountains on my previous journey, but I had stayed only one day because I was in a hurry. This time I left home resolved to stay here for a few days. The river water is muddy. The mountains are green. It is as if the desolate wasteland of our previous journey had never existed. This is the miracle of rain. I wrote in my notebook, water coming up from the sea, it is cloud. Down again, it is a river. A cloud is a flying river. A river is a flowing cloud. Rain comes from cloud. Rain, the salvanjika of the earth. At its coming, the earth springs into bloom. And when there is no rain, a river continues this work. Rain and river, two salvanjikas of earth. Thought and action, imagination and reality are the two salvanjikas of the soul. At their coming, the soul flowers. Cloud descending fulfills the earth, doing fulfills dreaming. Later I showed these lines to a poet friend of mine. He had a look and rejected them. You have given a sermon, he said. Poetry is not sermonizing. I quite agree with your sermon, I rejoined. Rather than a doggerel poet, better no poet at all. I know it. Poems should come to a poet as leaves come to a tree, spontaneously, without effort, as a gift from the gods. But this is no poem, merely some words strung together. Must it go through an ordeal of fire? It was the 3rd day since my arrival, Sharad Purnima. 2 of my students would arrive in the evening, and all of us would live together the following morning. However, evening declined into night, but the students did not come. They could not come through the wilderness in the night. We gave up hope of their arrival. After dinner, I was sitting in the temple doorway at about 9 o'clock. Suddenly, some figures could be seen moving through the darkness. Soon, they came quite close. All at once, I started up. I could not believe my eyes. Eagerly, I shouted, my voice trembling with emotion. Who is there, Anil? A moment later, Malay arrived too. Shulpaneswar is 3 kilometers from Navagaon. Last time it had taken us 1 hour by road, but the road had been washed away in the monsoon and the mountain path was so difficult that this time it took 3 hours to walk 3 kilometers in daylight. How had they managed in the dark, I wondered. Somebody told us an easy way. We came quite far along the other bank. Then we crossed the Narmada by boat and brought the boatman with us. We had to get here today at all costs. Otherwise, you would have gone on tomorrow. I would have waited for you. Then please start the day after tomorrow. We are so tired. We don't have the energy to leave tomorrow. Fine. We will go the day after tomorrow. Now I felt carefree. I went to the bank of the Narmada. The full moon had climbed over the hills and was pouring its glory into the valley. I realized that the moon reserves its sweetest self for those who wait for 15 days. I gazed greedily at the magician of the sky, at the mountains bathed in moonlight, at the river gleaming like silver. When would I find such a feast for the eyes again? For the past 3 days I had been observing the moon very attentively. Until yesterday it appeared a little incomplete, but now it looked splendid in every respect, so utterly laden with moonlight that it might break. How strange it is, I thought, that the light of the moon is not its own. The moon is not the author, it is only the translator. It translates sunshine into moonshine. But what a divine translator the moon is! Where is the charm in sunlight that is in moonlight? I wondered whether I should call the moon a translator, a transposer, or a transformer. However, my thoughts were only half correct. Translation may be in either direction. Sunlight may be translated into moonlight, but moonlight cannot be translated into sunlight. Just as milk may be made into curd, but curd cannot be made into milk. The moon possesses some kind of divine chemical, a sort of curdling agent, with which to effect a transformation from sunshine to moonshine. The sun, poor thing, lacks such a curdling agent. It was so late when I returned that the temple gate had been locked, but there was a little hatchway in the big wooden door that the priest had left unbolted. As I went through this, the sound of the river tried to slip inside with me. I fastened the hatchway, leaving the sound outside. Right in front of the temple is the Dev, a rivulet which flows into the Narmada. The temple was located at the confluence of the Dev and the Narmada. There is a rather small village on the high, steep crag above the Dev river, which has a fine waterfall. I had been to see it before, but I would go again with Anil and Malai. We climbed up the cliff next to the Dev. After looking at the temple there, we went to see the waterfall and the large rocky pool it tumbles into, known as Rudrakund. The Dev river leaps like a wounded tigress, growling and yowling, into Rudrakund, then squeezes between narrow rocks and goes to meet the Narmada. We went to the temple again. Water comes seeping out of the Dev river crag beneath it. The village people had positioned 2 pieces of bamboo there so that twin jets of water flowed freely. Village women come to bathe under the flow from the spring and fill their pots. We could see it all from the Shulpaneswar temple. As we were there, we also went to have a closer look at the spring shooting out from the mountainside. We came down by an absolutely sheer path, step by step, feet slipping on the smooth, wet ground. We reached the spring with great difficulty. Cupping our hands under the water spout, we cooled our eyes and drank our fill of the clear water. After a little while, two women came along. They bathed in turn. Then, balancing pitchers on their heads, they swiftly climbed up the terribly slippery path as we stood and stared. It would be hard for us to climb unencumbered while these women, each carrying 3 tiers of pots on their heads, went straight up, easy as anything. Only women from the hills can walk with such ease and grace. Clearly, they had had daily practice going up and down with their pitchers. We had long conversations with the priest. Referring to the future Sardar Sarovar Dam nearby, he said, "When that dam gets built, the very first place to be submerged will be this Shulpaneswar temple. The water level will be 100 feet above the top of the temple. The whole Shulpanjhari will be submerged." I had felt instinctively that I should stay as long as possible in this beautiful solitary place, gaze at it to my heart's content. 15 years later, it would cease to exist. That must be why I had spent 4 days here. Speaking of pilgrims, he said, some time ago a holy man passed through here. He was doing a Dandavat Parikrama, prostrating himself at every step. Even before his arrival, the word spread that a Baba, who gave medicine for all ills, was on his way. Crowds of simple village people gathered. He struck each patient with a stick, then gave either sacred ash or medicine. I have been suffering from asthma for a long time. In the face of illness, even the best of men become vulnerable. At first I stayed clear of this quackery, but later I changed my mind and I too took the stick. Did it do any good? Not in the least. It was no good and it did no good. By the time we realized that his medicine did no good, he was far away. He has really got himself a good job. In the afternoon, we went for a walk quite far up the Narmada so that Anil and Malai could get a glimpse of the Narmada's wilderness. As the Jhari comes to an end here, they could not see the extremely hilly terrain. Still, they could get some idea of it. Anil was hurrying on ahead, as if to make up for what he had missed on the last journey. We were sitting after our evening meal when a group of hymn singers came from the village. After the preliminary song, when they began the first hymn, I was overcome with delight. This was the very same prayer I had learned as a child in my little village in the far-away area of Kutch, Gujarat, about 55 years ago. Images from my childhood, my village, home, school, river, pond, all took shape before my eyes. Within seconds, I had cut through the interval of half a century. This song had brought me back to my childhood. I began my schooling with this prayer at the age of 6. Now, at the age of 60, I begin my walking along the Narmada in Gujarat with the same prayer. For some moments, I was lost in the past. One devotional song succeeded another. The singers sang with sincere feeling. I listened with rapt attention. In the morning, we found that Anil's shoes had been stolen. We had left our things on the open veranda of the temple. In 4 days, not so much as a pin had gone missing. But the previous evening, other people had come along with the hymn singers. One of them must have taken the shoes. Anil had discovered the loss that very night and searched for them, but they were not to be found. It was lucky that Anil had a pair of rubber sandals with him as well. He was not reduced to walking barefoot. We left in the morning. after 4 days at the Shulpaneswar temple. It saddened us to be exiled from that world of bliss, but it was important to reach the coast before Diwali. At Diwali, the ferry service would stop. If we arrived late, we would not get a boat for a week, so we had to go. Samlal was walking with me for the third time, Anil for the second time, and Malay for the first. After an interval of about 2.5 years, we set forth once again on the Narmada Parikrama.